All right, we'll jump to Tony.
How you guys doing?
And there he is. All right. Coach, thanks for joining us. We've got, I don't know, about 20 or 25 reporters on here. We've got an order. I'll try to help line them up for you here. We'll start with Jeremy Warner with 2247. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Hey, Tony, welcome to Champaign, man. Besides competing against Bret, you didn't really have a lot of ties to him. So I'm just kind of wondering, how did this all go down, and what's this opportunity mean for you?
Well, you know what? Brett and I's relationship was from a long time ago, back when he was an assistant at Iowa, when he was at Wisconsin as an assistant and a head coach. I was at University of Minnesota. We recruited down in South Florida together a lot, and we've been friends for a long time. And we've kind of always, between the two of us, always thought we'd hook up and work together. And it's finally worked out, and I'm pumped and fired up. And I'll tell you what, Illinois' got a great guy that's going to do an unbelievable job here.
You've shown some versatility as a play caller, pass heavy at some places, run heavy other places. What do you and Bret want to be offensively, identity wise and scheme wise?
Well, if we had to pick, if I was going to sit here and tell you right out of the gate, it's going to be Illinois' offense. We're going to bring some stuff I've done. We're going to bring some stuff from other guys on the staff, some stuff from Bret. But it's going to, as long as the personnel will allow it, it's going to be an 11 and 12 personnel offense. We're going to take care of the football. We're not going to beat ourselves. We're always going to be able to run the football however we have to do it, and have quarterbacks out there that make great decisions, looking for big plays and scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And I think those are the kind of things that over my years, whether I've changed personnel or how I've done things, I've always tried to do that and to be successful. And on the offensive side, you've got to do all that to be successful. And then the other side of it is, have somebody over there that's playing good defense. So you got to have both.
Thanks, man.
Okay, we'll go to Gavin Good with Gatehouse Publications. Go ahead, Gavin.
Hey, Tony, great to meet you and welcome to Champaign. I'm just wondering what the last few hours have been like for you since getting announced last night, and what it's going to be like making another move from here to from App State to here.
Well, since last night, I knew as soon as it got announced, because all of a sudden your phone blows up and you start getting all the texts from all the people that are close to you and you've worked with and congratulating you and hey, fired up, you're back in the Big Ten and all that. And me and my wife are very excited. We spent 8 years in the Big Ten, love the conference and love the Midwest. That's where she's from. And we're very excited to be here. So as far as moving from App State's a great place. We loved it there. We were only there a year. But can't say enough about Sean Clark, the head coach there, and what they do in their football program. But we're excited to move on and come here. We can't wait. And our youngest is actually a freshman at Florida State. So this will be the first time in my career where all of a sudden Beth will be able to just pack it up and boom, we can get out of there. We don't have to wait for the semester to end and school and all that kind of stuff. So we're fired up.
All right. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Brett Behrens from WCIA TV. Go ahead, Brett.
Hey, nice to meet you. Was your goal always to get back to the Big Ten? And what do you remember about coaching in the Big Ten at Minnesota?
You know what? I wouldn't say my goal was to get back to the Big Ten, but if you ever asked me through my career, all the other places I've been, what was the conference? And to me, it's the Big Ten. I loved it the 8 years I was in it. I've always, all the universities are in it. I just think it's, and I know the SEC and all that, but I guess if you had to ask me, I'm a Big Ten type of guy. That's the one I pay more attention to, and we're really looking forward to being back in it.
And real quick, have you had a chance to look at any tape of your quarterbacks yet?
I just actually watched a little bit today, fired up about Brandon, Isaiah. I know I've got a whole group of guys right there, but I got some guys that have played some ball, especially Brandon's played a lot of ball. I was listening a little bit of his Zoom call right there. I'm fired up to sit down and meet with him, and I'm going to kind of tell him, in the last 6 years, I've had a couple of senior guys that I've had to bring in. I had Jeff Driscoll at La Tech. I had the Gardner Minshew his year before he went to Washington State, a couple other guys. And I'm going to come in here and do what I've tried to do with those guys and make sure he has the best year of his career that he can have. So I'm going to work around him, what he's familiar with. If we have to change some terminology a little bit to make it easier for him, I'm going to do everything I can to make things, right for the quarterback spot.
Thanks.
Okay. Mark Petersen from WAND TV. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, Coach, welcome to Champaign. As far as this being your 10th school, your journey's taking you all over the place. How does this help you, having this be your 10th school, to just settle in quickly and get right to work?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done it by decision all the time. I mean, my first 16 years, I was at two schools. I was at Marshall for 8 years and Minnesota for 8 years. And I kind of thought that's how it was. And then recently we've kind of moved every 3 years, it seems like. But I've gotten pretty good at it. My wife's good at packing up stuff and getting it going. And so at least we know what we're doing as far as that goes and getting acclimated. We're very excited to get in here to the Champaign area and get a house and get rolling.
Awesome. Welcome, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Joey Wagner from the Decatur Herald and Review.
Hey, Tony, nice to meet you. You mentioned that you and Bret kind of always thought you would link up at some point. When did those conversations this time start getting going, and when did you kind of realize this was a pretty good possibility?
Well, I saw that Bret's name was in on the job, and I was like, boy, they couldn't get a better guy for it. And I really believe that. And I was like, I wonder if he's going to get back in it. Wonder what'll happen there. And then I was actually sitting in my office. We were about to go out to practice, I think. And Coach Clark walked by and he goes, "Hey, you better not be going to Illinois on me." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, I saw Bielema got the head coaching job at Illinois, and I hadn't heard from Bret yet. And I laughed. And Sean's a great guy. He's awesome. But we were at the bowl game. We were the first bowl game of the year, and I was sitting there at night watching. I don't know what I was watching, and all of a sudden Bret called me out of nowhere and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I want to bring you in and talk to you about this, and want this to go pretty quick if we can get going on this." And I said, "Well, after the game, I'm driving my truck up to Minneapolis to the in-laws, and my wife's already up there, and I was going to go hunting in Ohio after that." I said, "I'll just stop by and we'll meet on it." So I came over, and now the hunting trip's off and everything's good.
What is it about your personalities that allow you to mesh so well for so many years here?
So many years where?
Just in knowing him for so many years, what is it about the personalities that is such a good fit?
With me and Bret, you're talking about?
Yeah.
You know what? Bret's awesome. I mean, I love Bret. Known him for a long time. He's a competitor. He works hard. He's a winner. He's everything you want in a head coach, and he's been a great friend to me. And really, always, as I started to get older, I'm like, well, maybe I'll never end up hooking up with him. And I'm glad I am, and I can't wait for it.
Thanks, Tony. Welcome to Champaign.
Thank you.
All right, next, Robert Rosenthal from IlliniReport.info. Go ahead, Robert.
Hey, Coach, I'm curious about your thoughts on the Big Ten West. It's kind of known as highly defense-heavy league, that Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern, it's grind you down, it's time of possession. What are your thoughts about, forming an offense against those opponents?
Well, I go back to it again. What you've got to do, whatever you got to do to be able to run the football, and you've got to be able to control the clock in this league and on this side. Quarterbacks making good decisions, but the other side of that is you got to put up some points, and you got to be able to find some explosive plays, and you really got to lock in on. In the last few years, as you get into the red zone, it's trying to find ways, whatever you got to do to score touchdowns and not kick too many field goals. Now, the flip side of that is, there's a lot of times you're playing in some defensive battles in the Big Ten, and there's going to be a decent amount of punts, and there's going to be some field goals. So, there's a fine line there, and at the end of the day, you got to make sure you take care of the ball when you're doing it. But it's kind of everything that I believe in, and Bret believes in, how we're going to put this offense together. And sometimes it'll depend on kind of what defense you're playing and who you're playing.
And would you say you change your approach for a league like that, or is it like, this is what we do? We're going to do it if it's in the Big 12 and we're scoring 50, or if it's in the Big 10 West where somebody's trying to win by 7?
Well, at the end of the day, as long as we score one more point than the other team, I'm fine. It doesn't matter how many points we score. So some games you might have to go out and score 40 points to win that football game, and some games in a Big Ten contest it could be 17-14 type of a game. So it all depends on how well the other defense is you're playing, and vice versa as far as our defense versus their offense. And I think that changes week to week. So it kind of depends on the week. It's not like we're going out and we're saying, hey, we got to score 38 to 44 points a game every week to function here. I just don't think that's the case.
Thanks.
Okay, Colin Likas from the News Gazette, Champaign News Gazette. You're up.
Nice to meet you. You mentioned this a little bit with Brandon at quarterback, but really a lot of your offense is staying intact for next season. A lot of the offensive linemen coming back as well. With all of these incumbents, I mean, sometimes when there's coaching turnover, there's a lot of roster turnover as well, but clearly that's not the case with your offense. Does that make it, do you think that might make it easier to install what you're going to try and do here? Or how does that affect you trying to install what you want to do, having all these veterans and seniors coming back?
Well, love having a bunch of veterans and seniors coming back, especially on the offensive line at the quarterback position. It looks like we've got a couple running backs too. So anytime you've got linemen that have got a lot of experience, and a lot of those guys do, and a quarterback that's played a lot of football games, you're in a better situation no matter what. So very excited about that. We'd much rather have it that way than have to come in and have a freshman or sophomore quarterback and a bunch of linemen that haven't played a lot of plays. So you got a lot of kids that have played a lot of snaps in the Big Ten.
Okay, next we'll go Carson Gertie from the Daily Illini. Go ahead, Carson.
Hey, Coach. How's it going? When I think of Bret Bielema, I think of like Joel Stave under center. Is that kind of stuff kind of going to be put off to the side? Is this offense going to be more shotgun oriented?
This offense will probably be it'll be more shotgun oriented, but we will always be under center. I promise you. Bret believes in it, and I believe in it. And even last year at App State, I mean, we're going to be under center, and it'll be under center at times out in the open field on first and second down. It might be under center on third and short out in the field, maybe down on the goal line. So there will always be a portion of under center offense, and I just believe in it. When I was in Minnesota for 8 years, we were 98% under center. Now I know that was a while ago, but I love certain things under center, and we'll always have that in offense.
In 15, like you're at Minnesota in 2006, so it was like 15 years ago. How much has the Big Ten changed in the past 15 years?
I'll tell you what, Iowa's defense hasn't changed very much. I watched them on film the other day, and they look about the same as far as what they're doing. But I think things have changed a little bit, especially as offenses have evolved with quarterbacks, with athletic quarterbacks, and what you can do with them, and then some of the RPO game. But you sit there and watch some of the Big Ten stuff, and it's not the Big 12. It's still a little bit more of that old school, but there's some new school in it too. And you see it in some of the quarterbacks and what they do as far as the RPO and what they're doing with their legs.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Okay. Yep. Nico Haflinger from WICD TV. Go ahead, Nico.
Hey, Coach, nice to meet you. You mentioned you've seen a little bit of tape on the QBs already, and you're aware of the senior foundation you got coming back on the O-line. Are there any other players on the offense that you've had a chance to maybe look at some tape or, look at the stat sheet and kind of look at some of the guys that you'll have back next season?
Probably the two that stuck out as I was watching last year's Nebraska game for a little bit this morning, and the two running backs. Both looked like they had big gains in that game. Looked like thick kids that can run and see the open holes. I mean, I was excited what I saw in those two. So, the O-line, the quarterback, and then the quarterback position, and then those two running backs look pretty good on what I watched this morning.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Okay, next, Matt Stevens from Illini Now, Sports Illustrated. Go ahead, Matt.
Tony, I want to ask you about almost like your egoless approach to how you do offensive coordinator. Specifically, when you got the job at App State under Sean, it seemed like you publicly constantly said, this is Appalachian State's offense, and I just kind of don't want to break it because it's working, and we're going to run that. How does that differ from the approach you're going to take at Illinois when it's kind of more your kind of clay that you can mold, and it's not an offense that we really know what it's going to be right now?
Well, I did go into a situation at App State where they'd just come off a 13-1 season. They had a long stint of doing well and still are. And they had a bunch of seniors coming back and a bunch of kids that they had run an offense, and this is kind of how they had run it. But I loved a lot of the stuff about their offense. It reminded me a lot of the stuff when I was at Minnesota as far as the inside and outside zone game. So that was a no-brainer for me. Me and the head coach talked about it, and I was going to come in there and basically help them continue to run that offense, and that's what we did. I think this is a little bit different situation, and we're going to come in here and we're going to put together our offense, Illinois' offense, and And it's going to have some of that stuff at App State, but it's also going to have some stuff from some of the other places that our assistants are coming from. And it's going to have some influence from Coach Bielema too. So we're going to put together Illinois' offense, and it is a little bit different situation. And that was a unique one there at App State.
When Bret first took the job, he kind of said he wanted a little bit more of a spread option, kind of more open offense than they had at Wisconsin that he was leading. And he mentioned how that's just how the game has changed, and that's how offenses just have to be nowadays. Is that kind of in parallel to how you like to do things in sense of having more spread offense and less compact that they had at Wisconsin?
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be in 11 and 12 personnel, but that doesn't mean we're going to have everybody packed down into the box. We're going to be spread out at times. We might be a little bit big at times. We're going to be our guys are going to know what they're doing, but we're going to show a lot of eye candy on some stuff and get the defense's eyes and that kind of thing. But it's going to be what you would call, I guess, a modern day type of a spread look, but it's not going to be out of like 10 personnel where we've got 4 wide receivers out there. I mean, that's not what it's going to be.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay, we'll wrap up with Bob Osmussen from the Champaign News-Gazette. Go ahead, Bob.
Coach, who have been the strongest influences for you in your career? Or how are you to consider kind of your mentors in coaching?
Wow, I've had a lot, but my early days with Jim Donnan and Bob Pruitt, who are both retired now and out of coaching, and then I go back so much to a lot of the stuff that I learned from Glenn Mason at Minnesota, who's now working on the Big Ten Network, and texted me yesterday. He was awesome. Probably those 3 initially, but then, my time spent with Skip Holtz and I've just had some really great guys that I've worked for and learned a lot over the years, but it was a good foundation that I got with Bob Pruitt and Jim Donnan, and then the 8 years I was with Mason, Minnesota.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
All right. Well, Tony, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it and look forward to several more of these as we move down the road. So,
yeah, I appreciate you guys and look forward to meeting everybody in person, hopefully sometime soon.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
All right. I think we're going to move right into Bart Miller here. I think he's waiting. So we didn't take long, Bart. We announced you officially this morning and throw you right in front of the media group within a couple of
You guys
hours.
move pretty quick.
That's right. We'll go ahead and start with Robert Rosenthal from the IlliniReport.info. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, Bart, welcome to Champaign. I'm curious about 2012 and your first kind of stint with Bret Bielema and kind of getting thrown in there in September. Can you talk through what that was like moving from GA to OL coach and all of
that? Sure, to an extent. We had a great year in 11. Russell Wilson and Monty Ball and all those guys, and we had some turnover that year and moved into 2012. And I was very close with that group, and we did things a certain way, the Wisconsin way of doing things up front. And, got off to a really pretty slow start to the season and didn't need to. We were pretty talented up there, and coach made a change after the second game and promoted me. I had worked very closely with him and with the previous staff and was pretty involved anyway in our offensive room. And coach felt like we needed to make a change in the O-line and get back to some of the things that we were accustomed to doing, moving people around up front, changing the line of scrimmage, physical, downhill, tough, hard-nosed football. And we had lost a little bit of that in the first 2 games. And so, he made the change and promoted me. Obviously a tremendous honor, and I was a young coach and had a lot to learn, but I felt like I was ready and prepared. And that's a big thing with my coaching philosophy is preparation. And I tried to take that approach in my career as well. And so I was ready. I felt ready to take on a unit of my own. And we went back to the things that we were accustomed to doing, the things I did as a player. I played for a guy by the name of Bob Bostad, who was at Wisconsin. We we just implemented those old schemes and techniques and the mentality more than anything. And slowly, week by week, we got better and better and better, and it culminated in the Big Ten championship in 2012. And it really helped launch my career as well. And I have a tremendous amount of gratitude and in debt to Coach Bielema for that faith in me, and certainly his faith in me here at Illinois now too.
And so would you say that the two of you coming back together here in 2021 at Illinois is an attempt to maybe implement that Wisconsin way that you mentioned and do that type of thing, just one state south?
Well, I think it's going to be the Illinois way. We're going to play a physical brand of football, and both of us have grown and matured in certain ways and been around other guys that influence kind of our mentalities and things from a philosophical standpoint. But at the end of the day, he continues to talk about the smart, dependable, tough, and that's what we're going to do up front. We're going to change the line of scrimmage. There's going to be a huge emphasis on vertical movement, physicality, toughness. I mean, I want the meanest, toughest, nastiest dudes on the field, and that's what I've done at every place I've been. That's the way we fostered things at Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, Wyoming, you name it. And I think that's the only way to play the game, regardless of your formation structures and all that kind of stuff. You still have those five up front, and we're going to knock people around up front, and that's what we want to do. And I think that's going to be the Illinois way, playing a physical brand of football. And that's kind of why we're both here.
Thanks.
All right, Jeremy Werner from Illini Inquirer 247. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Hey, Bart, nice to meet you, man. I know you have history in this state in recruiting it. I know Doug Kramer was somebody you recruited, Josh Kreutz as somebody you recruited. Just what's your familiarity in recruiting this state, and how do you feel coming back to recruit? I know Bret wants to recruit the state pretty heavily.
I'm very excited for that. First off, my history began in high school. I played at Elk Grove High School, and for a guy by the name of Bruce Bizzali. So I have a tremendous amount of familiarity with the northwest suburbs, coming out of high school, and trained with guys like Tom Zibikowski and Brian Hare and Brett Basney. Some of you guys might recognize those names from 20 years ago. But, those guys were that whole area there was a lot of talent here when I was in high school. And I got into coaching, and this seemed kind of like the natural fit to put me in Chicago. And in every stop I've been, I've had either some part of Chicago or Chicagoland area, and so have developed a lot of deep relationships and meaningful relationships with high school coaches here. And I can't wait to get back on the road to do some of those things. I know COVID's put a pretty big kibosh on a lot of that in Illinois, but I'm excited to get back to see some of those guys that I've really developed a fondness of working with in the state. And I think it's a great fit for that, and there's a lot of talent in this state. There's a lot of talent in Chicago, but there's a lot of talent down in other parts of the state that are maybe less recruited by some of the other programs. And, we did things similar at other places I've been, and you got to try to build a fence around your home state and create a sense of pride within the community, within the state. This I means something. It means something to a lot of people. It means something to me. It should mean something to our players, and you're part of something that's greater than yourself now. And we need to take a lot of pride in the state. And when I was in high school, you kind of had fans of all different types, right? And it's Big Ten country, but there's no reason why we can't lock down the state and keep great players at home and bring a championship to Illinois.
Is there a reason specifically you kept coming back here to recruit? Is it just your ties here, or is it because offensive line in Illinois had a certain thing you liked?
I think just the people of the Midwest. There's a work ethic in the Midwest that's not found in other places. And I know there's globalization and movement and things like that in the country, but there's a sense of pride, of toughness. A work ethic, a blue collar mentality. You put your hand in the dirt, and that's true in Chicago. That's true in the Midwest, other parts of Illinois. It's southern Wisconsin. I grew up actually in Nebraska, but there's ag in this state. People have to work for a living here, and things aren't just handed to people, and they've had to earn things, and that's that translates down to their children. It translates down to the way they do things in recreation too, athletics and outdoors and all that kind of stuff. And you know, you're not recruiting a bunch of soft people. You know, there's a hard people, and that's I think that's the foundation of it all. At the end of the game, this thing, or at the end of the day, this is about people and getting good people in here, good hardworking kids in here, people that are proud of the state, proud of where they come from, proud of the style of football we play, and that's I think a huge advantage when you recruit. I mean, this is, you know, you don't go down to South Florida to try to find a lineman. You go to the Midwest, right? You go to places like Illinois. You go to places like a Wisconsin or an Iowa or Nebraska or someplace like that. But there's a bunch of talent in this state, and we're going to keep it home.
Thanks, Bart. Welcome, man.
Thank you very much.
All right, next, Matt Stevens from Illini Now Sports Illustrated. Go ahead, Matt.
Bart, my first question is, can you kind of describe the overall development you had with Travis Frederick? I know a lot of people who grew up, as I did, in southeastern Wisconsin couldn't find Bigfoot High School on a map, but you were able to kick him inside, and after playing offensive tackle there, and had a lot of success, you know, just starting in 2012 with you.
Sure. Well, you know, Travis came to Wisconsin before me. I didn't recruit him there, but he was a very under-recruited player. I think Wisconsin beat Northern Illinois on him, and which seems crazy at the time, his first round pick. But you know, Travis was an incredibly smart player, and with him, you had to obviously, like with anybody, figure out what motivates them, what drives them. But he was so cerebral, so intelligent. He wasn't just going to follow orders because you got coach on your shirt. You had to earn respect with him and with all those guys. And I think just some of the things we did from a technique standpoint, they were able to buy in because they saw results early, you know, and you know, they had played for a guy like Bob Bostad, like I did. So there was a common thread there. And we were able to establish with him just some things to use his skill sets. He was incredibly strong player. So he loved the weight room. And he had a tremendous amount of power that he could generate off the line. So you get a guy like that and you put him in those strong suits. You know, you increase your double teams, you work on some techniques and foot speed stuff to improve you. We dropped his weight a little bit. And you start to see and really drive him, push him, you know, and that's not just true with Travis. That's true with all those guys, Ryan Groy and Ricky Wagner and all those guys, Kyle Costigan, Rob Havenstein, all those guys up there. And you drive them, you push them, you make them the best that they're capable of becoming. And if they take care of that end of it, they will be one of the best in the country. And because they have the talent, and just like guys on our roster now have the talent. Our charge is to make them better and to make them the best that they're capable of becoming. And it's a John Wooden quote. If you guys want to look that up, but that's our charge as coaches is to motivate these guys to be truly great and to push them farther than they're capable. They think of going now, right? Your body's capable of doing amazing things. It's the mind that stops you. And so we've got to be able to drive these guys, to push these guys to reach their full potential. And that's what we did at Wisconsin. We developed those guys to make them better. They lived in the weight room. They did things that other people were not willing to do, right? That's where winners are, deep down where nobody else is willing to go. And that's really the mindset we took in that offensive line room is it's not necessarily working longer than anybody else. It's working harder and doing things that other guys are not doing. You know, the refusal to go that extra mile, so to speak. And you started to see with him and other of those players, you started to see that progression. You started to see some success that maybe he wasn't having before. And so that just builds your credibility, and it becomes this very strong connection, very, very strong trust. There's accountability with me as well, me to them. I mean, there has to be immense trust in that room. But those guys are going to be held accountable. And I told those guys when I first took that line job, I said, guys, we're in this thing together. And if I fail, you fail, and vice versa. And so it's not a player versus coach. It's we're all part now of Illinois football. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to bring a championship to Champaign, and that's you get those guys behind that, believing in that, becoming something that's part of something that's greater than themselves, and that just continues to breed that mentality. I tell my guys all the time, it's not a culture. It's an ethos. It's deeper than a culture. It's ingrained in you. And Travis bought into that, and the rest of the line bought into that. And it was a big reason for our success that in 2012, and it's been a big reason for our success with other places I've been. So,
Bart, if I can get a quick follow-up, Bart, there's not a cupboard. The cupboard is not bare for you. I count 19 scholarship offensive linemen that are on this roster right now for you. Can you just talk about that kind of clay that you have to mold right now as you get going?
It's certainly exciting. And I'm familiar with a couple of those guys. Obviously, I'm excited to talk and see Doug again. And a couple of those other guys, I was very happy to see that they were coming back low, and some of those other guys that I've had a chance just to really watch a little bit on. I haven't seen a tremendous amount on them, but I keep hearing great things, and I'm excited for what we have to work with here. I don't see it as a rebuild or anything like that. I see it as something that there are guys now, and we're going to make them better and make them the best that they can be. And you know, the second ranked Russian team in the conference last year, we have to build on those things and make them better, so we can do what we're talking about and bring a championship here. And so, yeah, I'm very excited about the unit. I haven't had a chance to talk to any of those guys yet. I'm looking forward to that when they start getting back in town and those things. But now that this is official, we can start to move forward with kind of that next step in those things. But I'm very excited to work with these guys. Very excited.
Thanks, Bart. I appreciate it.
All right. Colin Like is from the Champaign News Gazette. Go ahead, Colin.
Hey, Bart. Good to meet you. Matt actually asked one of my questions, so I'll ask the other one. You've obviously had a few stops since you worked with Bret at Wisconsin. How do you feel like you've seen yourself develop as a coach over these last several years? And what are some of the big things you've kind of taken away from these last few stops that you've had since Wisconsin?
It's a great question. I have had some stops. Some have been by design, some have not been. But I've taken something from every place and learned, I think, along the way. And again, I was pretty young. I was in my middle 20s when I worked with Coach B last and had the line at Wisconsin. And really my first job, full-time job, was the O-line coach at Wisconsin. So I think just you go through some growth. Other places I've been working with guys in other areas, they're stronger in other areas, like Greg Brandon taught me quite a bit about protections and things of that nature when I was at New Mexico State, right? And working for a couple other guys, like Charlie Partridge at FAU and even Troy Calhoun at Air Force. You learn things from great coaches. Had the opportunity to work for Frank Solich and Craig Bull, who both had tremendous amounts of successes in their careers, and you learn things and develop and grow things in each new offense, each new staff, and I think it's only helped me develop as a coach and take pieces from other stops we've been at, and certainly learn some new techniques. It also solidifies what you believe in, and you've got a chance to implement those at other positions. You could say, okay, well, we were loaded at Wisconsin. Well, the same things we did from a technique standpoint, from a development standpoint, from a fundamental standpoint at other schools that maybe aren't as tradition rich, like in FAU, like in Ohio or someplace like that. We still had a tremendous amount of success doing those things. So it validates some of your core beliefs, and you grow and kind of shape yourself and mold yourself as a coach, to use a term that was used earlier. But I think that's what I've taken the most from, and certain leadership styles, certain way things, programs are run. And it makes you have the appreciation for working for a guy like Coach Bielema. So grown as a person, as a father. I've had 2 children since then, and I think you just continue to mature and gain that sense of responsibility in yourself as well. And it's helped me become a better coach. It's helped me become a better man and a better husband, better father, all those things. And at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're leading young men and trying to create the best football product possible for the University of Illinois. So all those things have kind of led to this opportunity, and I'm excited to kind of share that with these guys here.
Hey, Bart.
Joey Wagner from the Decatur Herald Review. Go ahead, Joey.
Hey, Bart, good to meet you. Bret was obviously a guy who got you, was instrumental in you getting that first opportunity as a coach in the college ranks. What has the level of communication been like as you guys have gone to different stops? I mean, how regularly were you in touch before this thing started to pick up?
We've always had a relationship. I think after Wisconsin, it was maybe a little less than it was initially. And then after a year or two, it certainly picked up again. He's helped me get some other jobs of mine, and certainly looked out for me in some other positions. And it's helped me tremendously in my career from an advice standpoint too. And had a chance to go out to New England when he was there. I've got some other connections there, and have just kept in touch a couple times a year, checking in, just, like you do in this profession. But he's always been a guy that I've respected, grown from, learned from, a mentor in a way, and he's put his faith in me and I in him. And so we've always kind of kept in touch. And when this opportunity came his way, I waited a few days to reach out just to congratulate him, but it expedited fairly quickly after that. And here we are. So certainly have maintained a very good relationship since our last time together.
Thanks. Welcome to Champaign.
Okay, we'll go with Matt Fortuna from The Athletic, and then we'll finish up with Jim Cotter. So go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Bart. Good to meet you virtually. In non-pandemic times, what's your philosophy as far as building camaraderie among your group, off the field, barbecues, things like that? And what's your philosophy right now as you can't do any of that as you go to get to meet these guys?
Great question. Outside the pandemic, which will beat this thing and we'll get back to normal, but the unit has to be cohesive. It's the most important unit in sports. It's one of the hardest positions in sports to play. It's five guys working together efficiently to dominate your opponent. And there has to be trust on that unit. There has to be a dependability. I have to be able to count on the guy next to me. And you can't do that by just saying a bunch of words, right? It has to be built and forged through the training, through the preparation, right? And that's where it starts. The training should be difficult. Practice should be demanding. And your preparation should be difficult and challenging so that the test is easy, right? And if you put yourself through that grueling preparation method, whether that's the physical training, that's the practice, that's training camp, that's the way they are in the weight room, the mental approach, the preparedness that you take from a mental side, getting ready for the games, those things, you're going to foster that, right? And it's a bond that's created over a hardship, right? And it's the same principle that's used in the military. It's the same principle that's used in any small group elite organization. And it's no different on the football field. Those guys are working together to accomplish a common goal. They have to be able to depend on each other. They have to be able to trust each other, that when things go badly, the guy next to them has been through the same thing that they've been through and is prepared to come out on the other side on top. And so that's where it starts, in creating this pride in what they're a part of, creating this pride in the fact that they're doing something that nobody else can do and or has the ability to do or wants to do, right? And it's a very tough position. You're hitting someone every play. And so we have to train that way. We have to prepare our bodies that way. Live in the weight room. It's a very physical and demanding position. And so we put them through that. We hold them accountable, and that's the other thing. They got to be able to trust each other that you're doing the right thing, right? If I can't trust you to do well in your science class or your math class, how can I trust you on 3rd and 2, right? How can I trust you in a situation where if you're not, getting to tutors on time, something very simple like that requires zero talent, right? How can I trust that you're going to not jump off sides in a critical situation, right? So there is a measure of accountability. We will hold those guys accountable together, and there'll be some ownership there and some buy-in there because of that. The other thing is we do a lot of things together as a unit, or typically have. I take them paintballing in the wintertime, and when I was at FAU, Doug didn't get the chance to experience this, but we went out to the Everglades and swamps to do that. So it's a little dangerous at that point, but here we'll have to figure out something else. But we do barbecues. I have them over at the house. I put things on the smoker and do that. My kids are love being around the team as much as they can, you know, so they'll get a chance to see me interact with my wife and see me interact with my kids and those type of things. And it becomes very much a part of who we are, and you kind of bloom here with this. And that's, I think all that kind of stuff incorporates into that. And they don't have to be best friends, but they do have to trust each other. They do have to work well together. And a lot of times that fosters through what they go through. So, my philosophy, we're gonna work very, very hard. They're gonna live in the weight room. They're gonna do some extra work at times and things like that, but they're gonna do it together. And there's gonna be a trust that's built because of that. And then they're gonna hold each other accountable. And we're gonna compete for knockdowns. You know, I have a trophy made everywhere I've been, a knockdown trophy, and it goes to it's kind of like the Stanley Cup. Your name gets etched in it at the end of the season, and you get it for the weekend or whatever. And you know, there's going to be things like that, incentives to foster competition, right? And competition drives what we do, and we want guys that want to win. They want to be great. Losing is not okay, and those guys will know that, and they need to win in everything they do. You know, winning in the classroom, winning off the field, winning on the field, on the practice field, you know, and I think all those things help foster this culture that you're a part of something that's greater than yourself. You take an immense amount of pride in that, and you're going to work to make that better every day. And that's what we do in our unit.
All right, we'll wrap up today with Jim Cotter, who's writing for the Rivals.com Orange and Blue News today. So, Jim, go ahead.
Bart, welcome to Champaign. I'm just going to expound on that last question a little bit. I know it's no secret that the key to a great offense is the guys blocking in front of them in the offensive line. And we've mentioned that there's been 19 guys returning or whatever, but you've got a good core returning that have been starting for a couple of years now. Just talk a little bit about what that entails and how you are going to make them even stronger come, you know, over the spring and during the summer to get them prepared for next year.
Well, first step, I need to do a little more evaluation, but at the same time, we're going to live in the weight room. I mean, we have to be able to move people, and I think we've got some good strength. I think we've got, you know, like I said, some pieces in place. We need to continue to get better, continue to develop. Right? You either staying getting better or getting worse. You're never staying the same. And so we need to continue to get better and do that in the off season right now with NCAA rules and things like that. We've got to be able to lift and become explosive, very powerful. Again, moving, changing that line of scrimmage, and they need to be able to transfer power from their hip, from the floor through their hip into the block. And so a tremendous amount of that is their physical preparation through the off season. And then we'll start as we start to implement our offense. Work on some technique stuff, some individual work as we get into spring ball. That way they can kind of hit the ground running in spring ball, and then spring football is vital. Is vital for us to be able to get those 15 practices and implement not only our new philosophies at places, but also some of our techniques and some of the new things that we're going to implement. But our coaching styles and teaching techniques and all those type of things. So. I think that all is incredibly important as we move into this off-season time, you know, when they get back on campus. And, you know, next steps for me is to be able to get in touch with those guys and communicate kind of our plans and our goals setting moving forward, and working towards accomplishing those goals as we get into that other phase in the summertime too, where, again, we're continuing into that strength and conditioning phase. We will do some positional work in the summer and these new NCAA rules the last couple of years. That's been a very big help and get them prepared. So when we take the field, wherever we are in August, we're ready to hit the ground running with this new Illinois program and Illinois offense. So the development piece is huge. And with these 19 guys coming back in, there's going to be, you know, they've had a couple of these guys have had 2 other O-line coaches. And so just getting everybody on the same page, implementing our stuff, but a tremendous amount of training, physical work, and getting these guys where we want to be so we can do what we're all wanting here to happen and win that championship and lead the Big Ten in these offensive categories, but also work to become the best offensive line in this conference. And that's, you know, hopefully then eventually the best offensive line in the country. And that's not a That's not a coach speak. That's not cliche. That's the goal, and it's happened in other places. And it may not happen overnight, but there's no reason why we're not working for that. And that's a realistic thing here at the University of Illinois. This one, I want this to be an O-line school, and so that's our mentality. We're going to work towards that every day, and they're going to train like that every day.
Thanks, Bart. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, Bart, we appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. Welcome to Illinois, and we look forward to doing this again sometime. So thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Nice to meet all of you.
Thanks, Bart.